part of it. There's no doubt about that. They were also trained in the entertainment side of things. Don't forget that these were spectacles, and the majority of the fights were between gladiators from the same school.
To ensure they put on a good show in the arena, the fights were organized between different types of gladiator. There were 6 types, and each possessed a range of weapons, an armatura, which was unique to them and required specific techniques.
The armaturae belonged to the school, and the gladiators who performed might have been a retiarius one day and a provocator the next.
The provocator had all the basic elements of an armatura: a leg protector, a leather breastplate, a leather manica to protect his right arm, a Roman greave, a helmet covering his face, and a shield.
The provocator was the one who began things, because clearly it was with this panoply that you started the afternoon of games in the amphitheatre, but also training in gladiator schools.
The mumilo was the archetypal Roman soldier, the favourite gladiator of the legions. He was typically paired with Thracians and Hoplomachii, who represented foreign countries. Mumiliones stood out thanks to their crested helmets and great curved shields for protection.
You might compare them to moray eels hiding in their hole. They wait and then suddenly attack, going after their prey. It could be a counterattack, but also if the other guy is there in position, they just have to make a move, and in one blow, they attack so unexpectedly, so violently, so suddenly that the other guy is forced to move, and when he moves, they cut him with the dagger, overcome him, and win.
The Thracian is the best adversary for a mumilo. They were the old enemy of the Roman armies. Their whole technique was linked to their special weapon, the circa, a short knife with a curved, double-sided blade.
The Thracians used his circa to attack above the left shoulder and inside the shield on the right-hand side, always trying to find the correct angle to get behind the shield.
The mumilo's other adversary was the hoplomachus. His armatura was very similar to that of the Thracian, except that he held a dagger in his left hand and a lance in his right.
He's also known as dimacher, or double fighter, because he could use both weapons at the same time.
But the best fight for the Colosseum crowds was most probably the combat between the secutor and the retiarius. The retiarius was only allowed to protect his head with a galerus, a leather sleeve ending in a metal plate. But he had 3 key weapons: a short dagger, a trident to keep his enemies at bay, and a net, or rete in Latin, which gave him his name.
The armatura of the retiarius was extremely complex. Not only did he have 3 weapons to manage, but also he was the armatura that required the most variations in terms of fighting distance. He had to be extremely tough and very fast over short distances. For me, this is the ultimate gladiator.
His adversary was the secutor. He had a manica of metal scales and a smooth helmet, so the retiarius's net couldn't attach to it.
In terms of technique, his name, secutor, says it all. He was the hunter, the pursuer, or seeker. The secutor attacked his opponent like lightning. He charged him. He would try and cut corners like a predator chasing an antelope. If he always remained behind, he would never be able to catch him. So from time to time, he'd cut the corner to catch his enemy.
These different types of gladiator were the real heroes of the amphitheatre. After 20 years of experience in gladiatorial combat, Brice Lopez has demystified certain aspects of the spectacle. For example, with the help of cardiologists, he has shown that the seemingly endless fights as portrayed in the movies would have, in reality, been unsustainable.
These tests are conclusive. I reach my maximum heart rate of 200 beats per minute after 40 to 50 seconds of fighting.
Experimental archaeology has thrown doubt on the legends that persist today regarding the gladiators, and some fortuitous discoveries are also helping our understanding of the realities of gladiatorial combat, which is somewhat lacking. Excavations carried out in Ephesus on the Mediterranean coast of modern-day Turkey have shed light on the fate of gladiators during the empire.
During the excavations, we quickly realized we were dealing with something special because some of the tablets bore representations of gladiators.
Several of the tombs, some of which had headstones, were without doubt the tombs of gladiators. One showed a mumillo, another a retiarius, identifiable thanks to his trident. Thousands of bone fragments were discovered and matched up by a team headed by forensic anthropologists Fabian Kantz and Karl Groschmidt.
Wir haben eine Mindestanzahl an Individuen festgestellt.
We were able to identify a minimum of 68 individuals, 66 of whom were young men aged 20 to 30.
Gehört haben, und zwar Männern zwischen 20 und 30.
We found a great many injuries,
So eine typisch für
typical of the weapons we know were used by gladiators,
unter anderem eben eine
and sword wounds in particular, going diagonally through the forehead.
runde Verletzungen.
There were also round wounds, typical of those caused by lances or spears that had been plunged into the skull with a great deal of force. The most interesting of these round wounds were spaced 5 centimeters apart and were the result, we believe, of a trident injury.
What can we learn about the lives of the gladiators from these bones, examined using the latest pathological techniques? Dr. Kantz is particularly interested by a serious wound to the skull caused by a weapon during a fight.
Hier ist die Außenfläche oder die
This is the outer surface or outer side of the skull, and here is the inside
sehen
part.
können, ist
The lamina interna, as we can see, is completely intact. This means that it hasn't been perforated.
reguläres Knochen.
Here we can see regular bony tissue.
Bis hier ist
The weapon penetrated here,
was wir aber hier sehen
but
können.
we can see that the healing process is very advanced. It was probably long, a year and a half, and isn't quite finished, but it has healed very well.
Is it possible that the healing of wounds was helped by a special diet, as mentioned by several Roman authors?
Weiters erwähnt wird, dass es
It would appear that after training, they were given an ash-based drink to help with stomach
der
pains.
sogenannte Aschetrunk.
For our research,
Hoffen
we
wir,
are hoping that this diet and ash drink will have left traces in the bone.
Spuren in den Knochen hinterlassen hat.
These traces may be detectable by the presence of strontium. For the first time in history, it will be possible to check these ancient sources by analyzing a few bone fragments in an atomic spectrometer that can detect the presence of strontium. But first, the fragments must be prepared for analysis.
Und
Then, in theory, we should be able to find the traces left by stable isotopes, such as nitrogen and carbon.
Stoff und Stickstoff.
Kantz has already analyzed bone fragments from many other Roman remains found in other tombs in Ephesus. This has allowed him to establish the average level of strontium in the general population, and he can compare this figure to what he finds in the gladiator bones.
Je nachdem, welche Elemente
The flames change color according to the elements present in the solution.
Flamme und an der
The more concentrated the elements in the bone, the more intense the flame.
dem Knochen vorlag.
The color of the flame shows that the level of strontium in this sample is much higher than that of a regular Roman citizen. And it confirms that the gladiators had a special diet to help cure their wounds.
Es ist sicher eine sehr gute.
They clearly had very good medical care,
Es wundert wenig,
but that's no surprise, given that the investment in gladiator schools was equivalent to what is spent on today's football teams.
Clubs, und sie haben sicher danach
And to protect these investments, the gladiators got the best treatment available at the time.
war, den Gladiatoren angedeihen zu lassen.
During the Roman Empire, the gladiators received the best medical care possible to ensure a lengthy career and maximum profit for the lanista who owned them. But their survival primarily depended on exemplary behavior in the arena.
If you won without being spectacular, without being engaged, without putting on a show for the audience, you might lose in your next fight and be put to death. If you were committed and demonstrated good technique, if you really gave yourself to the audience, even if you put a knee to the ground, you knew you wouldn't die.
The fate of the loser was then officially in the hands of a magistrate, and in the Colosseum, in the hands of the chief magistrate, the emperor himself.
The people not only interacted with the emperor, but also played a role in deciding if a gladiator would live or die. The emperor himself take into account the wishes of the people.